With his past haunting him and his future uncertain, he must overcome impossible odds to survive. The stakes are high and failure is not an option. Taehyun is rising to the challenge and not fall to the darkness from unknown missing details. I'm itching for more Chief, but to our viewers, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more.
Taehyun in her hospital bed glared in surprise and agony, demanded, "What is this nonsense?" Rumors had quickly spread online about a supposed romantic relationship between Taehyun and Taehyun, with people speculating that their dungeon raid was actually a secret date for the two of them. One man, trembling with excitement, clutched his phone as he read the gossip. In her chamber, Taehyun blushed with embarrassment, struggling to believe what she was seeing. Meanwhile, 3 guild members stood awkwardly trying to look innocent. They avoided the head's piercing gaze as she calmly explained that the dungeon raid had been conducted in strict confidence. Taehyun then asked how such sensitive information could have been leaked, and worse, how it had spiraled into such humiliating rumors. Her voice sharpened as she sternly questioned whether they were responsible. One member, glancing nervously to the side, muttered that completing double dungeons was a major event, and keeping everything entirely secret had proven extremely difficult. The red-haired member nervously admitted, "I only told a few close friends who I was sure knew how to keep secrets." Meanwhile, the third member began shouting in a fit of frustration, "I'm offended. I've done nothing but remain loyal to the head. There's not an ounce of deceit in my dedication." Taehyun smiled sweetly but ominously. "Perhaps you all should just die together today," she suggested. Suddenly, Jin burst into the room, his expression serious. "I've heard news about you using your..." he began, but something unexpected caught his eye, leaving him speechless. The Taehyun guild members had clearly been beaten by their master. Later, Taehyun and Jin Wei walked through the park together. Taehyun took a sip of her Jiayangshi and asked, "Who do you take me for?" She explained that she had been training rigorously to control herself during the berserk mode. She proudly stated she could last for about a minute without interference. Jin Wei looked at her curiously and asked, "And how did it go? Also, what are your thoughts on Taehyun's abilities? I know you've been eager to test them." Taehyun's expression darkened with concern. "In the end, I lost my mind," she admitted. "I only know from Taehyun's account that he was the one who opposed the Great Phoenix, and that he managed to defeat it." Looking away with displeasure, Ahang added, "And it's only been 2 days since we finished the raid on the Fire Temple, yet Taehyun has already decided to head into the depths of the abyss." Jin Wei, shocked by this revelation, asked, "Are you serious? The depths of the abyss?" Taehyun looked at Jin Wei sadly, admitting that she didn't fully understand Taehyun's actions. She explained that typically, after a hunter reaches a major milestone, they feel satisfied and take a break, but Taehyun showed no sign of stopping. In fact, according to Taehyun seemed determined to rise even higher, using any means necessary. Jin Wei was surprised by her insight, wondered aloud why he kept pushing himself to get stronger. The wind outside rustled the leaves as Jin Wei, lost in thought, surprised Taehyun by saying, "I think I know what's going on." Taehyun looked at him, puzzled. "The chairman of the Hunter Association actually knows why?" she asked with disbelief. Taehyun listened closely, anticipating Jin Wei's answer. Jin Wei clenched his fist, then boldly declared, "Taehyun is driven by his patriotism." This statement left her visibly embarrassed. Jin Wei continued, explaining that in an era filled with rampant monsters and awakening evil, Taehyun's burning desire to help his country survive was what drove him. As he spoke, Jin Wei imagined Taehyun as a heroic figure, cape-flowing, surrounded by monsters. However, Taehyun, unimpressed, smiled and said, "I don't think that's the case."
How do you say she wants them draws without saying she wants them draws? But what's shocking is that her own guildmates betrayed her like that. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them got paid off for spilling the details.
Yeah, but she should have seen it coming. In a game like this, trust is a rare commodity. Everyone's got a price. It was only a matter of time before someone turned on her. Elsewhere, 2 men standing in front of an iron gate. These gates led to the abyss, and even from the outside, one could sense the danger within. Taehyun was in the abyss now. surrounded by hunters and workers. He smiled, saying, "This is my first time in the abyss since I regressed." Taehyun was greeted by a man who already knew his name. This man introduced himself as Paul Becker, a member of the World Hunter Association, in charge of managing Area 22 in the depths of the abyss. Paul was an A-rank hunter. While they walked together, Paul mentioned that, according to the records, this was Taehyun's first time in the depths of the abyss. Taehyun confirmed this. Paul raised his index finger and he suggested that Taehyun hire hunters to serve as guides or mercenaries. He explained that the World Hunter Association had established safe bases, known as hunter zones, across the abyss to aid in its exploration. However, even these zones weren't entirely safe, as powerful monsters could strike unexpectedly at any moment. Paul cautioned that even though Taehyun was an S-rank hunter, he should still consider hiring others for protection. But Taehyun shocked Paul by saying that he didn't need any assistance. Just as Taehyun was about to say something more, a massive monster suddenly burst out of the ground behind him. Paul screamed in alarm, urging Taehyun to run, but to his astonishment, Taehyun remained calm and swiftly dealt with the monster, cutting it in two with ease. Holding his dagger, Taehyun remarked that he had just wanted to take a walk. Sometime later, the ground was littered with monster corpses. Taehyun exhaled and mentioned that he had sent Paul Becker back. Now, having come this far, he figured it was unlikely he'd run into anyone else. Reflecting on his recent battle, Taehyun realized that by absorbing the Great Phoenix in the Fire Temple, he had fulfilled the condition needed to activate the contract with the requirement of 200 units of mana. Taehyun held some crystals in his hands, puzzled. He opened his status window and noticed that the description of his skill had changed, leaving him wondering why. It was written that Taehyun could open a gate within the abyss. Holding 2 enhancement stones, he thought that instead of managing a collection of weaker monsters, it would be better to acquire one strong specimen. Taehyun immediately used the mana enhancement stone, causing his mana to temporarily increase. Suddenly, a rift begins to form in front of him, followed by bone hands and bone claws. A gate materialized in front of Taehyun. The gate emitted dark, ominous energy, and Taehyun smiled as he approached it. He entered the gate, and upon arrival, something caught his eye: a massive staircase leading up to a grand and luxurious castle. He continued climbing the stairs, marveling at the fact that there was an actual castle here. He thought to himself that he had never heard of such a place existing within the abyss. 3 monsters appeared behind him. Sensing their presence, Taehyun swiftly turned around and delivered a powerful blow, kicking up a cloud of dust. Standing in combat readiness with a dagger in his hand, one of them spoke ironically, mocking his apparent fear, questioning why Taehyun would wield such a dangerous weapon. The green-haired succubus pondered how Taehyun should be punished, while the red-haired succubus remarked that they had a guest. The blonde one gleefully exclaimed that he was human and that he must be delicious. Taehyun, taken aback, thought to himself, "Are these succubi?" He knew that succubi were monsters capable of draining life force through mental attacks, such as illusions or brainwashing. Standing lower on the stairs, Taehyun mused that succubi were usually ranked as B-class monsters, not S-rank like these. The red-haired succubus taunted him, calling him a poor soul who had wandered into the wrong place. The blonde one chirped with excitement, imagining how delicious he must be. Without hesitation, Taehyun launched himself off the ground with immense power, leaping toward the succubi with his dagger ready to strike. He reasoned that if this was related to his contract, he had to hit them. The green-haired succubus remained calm as Taehyun's attack narrowly missed her. He unleashed a barrage of strikes, but each time the succubi effortlessly dodged. Blue energy began to radiate from Taehyun as he relentlessly pursued them. One of the succubi laughed with excitement, pleased by his aggression. The green-haired one formed a magic sign with her fingers, casting a spell. She teased him, saying it was nice that he was so passionate, but it would be difficult to tame him. Suddenly, everything around Taehyun was illuminated by the succubus's magic. A glowing heart-shaped symbol appeared between him and the succubi, and Taehyun, frozen in place, slowly lowered his hand holding the dagger. The succubi began to laugh, believing it was the end for him. They mocked him, saying that after their brainwashing, no man could ever return to his former self. Just as the green-haired succubus began to laugh, Taehyun closed the distance in an instant and delivered a powerful punch with his stone fist. The green-haired succubus was struck hard, and the other two were left in shock, suddenly worrying for their sister. However, to his astonishment, the system informed him that this succubus was not the object of the contract. Taehyun, horrified, wondered if these succubi weren't meant for the contract at all. Suddenly, another figure appeared, a grand succubus of a higher rank than the others. She smirked, recognizing that Taehyun was no ordinary person. Behind her hovered several more succubi. The grand succubus suggested that Taehyun would make a perfect gift for their queen. The scene shifted to the castle of the succubi, a strange place covered in vines that hung the dead bodies of unfortunate victims. A maid approached her, delivering the news that a human had infiltrated the castle. The queen seemed amused by the thought and remarked that this intrusion might provide some entertainment. Back in the castle's corridors, chaos ensued. Dust filled the air as powerful impacts shook the ground. Taehyun fled, pursued by the succubi who were determined to capture him. They called him a coward, but one of them emphasized that he had to be taken alive as a gift for the queen. Annoyed by the situation, Taehyun looked over his shoulder, realizing the succubi were closing in. Two of the succubi lunged at him, their legs aimed at striking him down. Taehyun dodged swiftly, sliding beneath their attacks. He then called forth the spirit of the King Knight once again. The succubi were momentarily stunned by the force of his summon. A massive explosion followed, blasting part of the roof away. Taehyun stood below the gaping hole in the roof, wiping dust from his face and catching his breath. He knew now that if the ordinary succubi weren't the object of the contract, there was only one possible target left, the queen herself. As he gathered his strength, a succubus maid appeared before him, her demeanor calm yet dangerous, signaling that the confrontation with the queen was near. As the Archduchess of the Abyss, she attacked with her tentacles. Taehyun had anticipated this. He summoned the spirit of the King Knight and pinned her tentacles to the ground, declaring, "I will make you submit." He cut through her tentacles with his dagger, drawing closer for a final blow. Just as he was about to strike, his stone skin shattered and his chains disintegrated. Shocked, Taehyun looked up to see Rosaria smiling as she snapped her fingers. The world flipped upside down. The floor vanished and Taehyun plunged into the air, surrounded by a surreal cityscape. His skills failed to activate, and he fell helplessly toward the ground, only to crash into water below. Realizing it was all an illusion, he struggled for breath. Rosaria watched from above, laughing. "You wonder when I took control?" she taunted. "From the very start." In reality, Taehyun lay unconscious, bound by her tentacles. His mind, however, was trapped in a different world. He found himself in the back seat of a car, surrounded by three others. Looking beside him, Taehyun recognized a young boy, his younger self. The boy excitedly clenched his fists, shouting, "The higher the rank of an awaken, the more money they make. When I rank up, I'll buy mom and dad everything they want." Taehyun's parents started laughing, and his mother turned around and said that, as expected, their Taehyun could be relied upon. Taehyun's mother then said that she would rather see Taehyun be healthy and live a happy life. Little Taehyun felt awkward and replied that this was mortal boredom. Taehyun at that moment was thinking that his mother and father really always said that Taehyun, looking at his happy family, thought that these were people who did not care whether Taehyun became a high-ranking awakened and could provide for everyone for his poor family. They just wanted Taehyun to always be happy. Taehyun continued to watch his family with a smile, but suddenly the car started to burn, and Taehyun was horrified. He saw the car on fire and the people still sitting in it. He looked at the driver's seat and saw his father, who had already died, sitting there. Taehyun's mother was also dead. Taehyun wondered, stunned, what was going on in the distance. Taehyun saw a man and a woman holding little Taehyun in their arms. The woman screamed that this was horror and that even heaven turned a blind eye to it. The man and woman were crying. An Taehyun was holding little Taehyun, who was passed out. The hero tried to shout to them suddenly behind him. Taehyun heard someone's evil laughter and someone insulting an unawakened person. Taehyun turned around and saw two bandits who were humiliating him. These two bandits, including Labit Taehyun, they shouted at him not to pretend that he was in pain and to stand up alive. Taehyun got out of the burning car and watched himself. He realized that these were his memories at this moment. Another memory of Taehyun, from the times when he was a porter, appeared on the other side. Two men walked behind Taehyun. The hero was breathing heavily, but continued to carry the backpack. The man walking behind had fun and insulted Taehyun, calling him an insignificant porter. Taehyun, watching this, thought that since he was unawakened, since he had no strength, he did not have the opportunity to fight back any of the misfortunes that he faced daily. However, something else was even more difficult to bear. Taehyun saw a memory of his aunt yelling at him. Taehyun stood in front of his uncle and aunt with his head bowed. The aunt started yelling at Taehyun, asking where he was going, because his body was completely untrained. Aunt Taehyun shouted that everything was fine with their money, so he didn't have to worry about them. However, Taehyun bowed his head and replied that he was grateful to them for helping him. So far, aunt and uncle looked pitifully at Taehyun, who said that he was really very grateful to them. The hero, observing this, reflected that the hardest thing to bear was the fact that he was not able to help others. And besides, he dragged into the epicenter of his misadventures those who extended a helping hand to him past. Taehyun turned around and began to walk away from his relatives, heading into the abyss. The hero stood and watched as he slowly left the past. The present-day Taehyun reflected on this painful past. His parents had wanted him to be happy, but he realized that to achieve happiness, strength was essential. Past Taehyun, the powerless porter, seemed to linger behind him, a haunting reminder of the hardships he had endured. At that moment, the system notified Taehyun of a detected threat. The queen's hypnosis skill had taken hold. The queen watched him closely, satisfied with her handiwork. The system informed Taehyun that he had failed to resist the queen's power, and his stats were rapidly declining. Most of his skills were now unusable, yet out of the 8 skills he possessed, there remained one that he could still activate. With determination, Taehyun uttered a single word.
Final boss says.
Predation. Taehyun activated his skill, and a fierce red aura flared around him. With the power of a predator, he began to tear through the illusions that surrounded him. Meanwhile, in the depths of the abyss, chaos unfolded as hunters lay dead and bleeding on the ground. Watching from afar, the queen, Regressing, murmured to herself, surprised that Taehyun had survived her trap. Standing before the terrifying creature, Asmodeus, Regressing marveled at how Taehyun had defied her expectations. Her thoughts lingered on peculiarities within his memories. She noted how Taehyun appeared older in certain flashbacks, memories that contradicted logic and time itself. Some recalled events had even diverging outcomes, such as his encounters with the bandits. Puzzled, Regressing mused aloud about the strange secrets Taehyun must be hiding. With a dismissive wave of her tentacle, she shattered a memory of Taehyun's encounter with Asmodeus into pieces. As she reveled in her moment of triumph, a sudden burst of light stunned her. In awe, she gazed upon a white figure floating before her, the king. Regressing hesitated, her voice trembling in shock as she realized what she was seeing. "The king," she whispered, her composure momentarily shattered. While Regressing was distracted, Taehyun seized his chance. Using his predator skill, he broke free from the illusion. Startled, Regressing awoke from her daze, drenched in sweat and breathing heavily. She scanned the room, her eyes darting to the bed, only to realize that Taehyun was no longer there. When she turned, Taehyun stood behind her, dagger in hand. He pressed the blade to her throat, his voice calm, yet commanding. Spying on people's memories, disgusting for a queen, with a grin, Taehyun demanded once more that she take the oath of summoning. Regressing's laughter echoed through the chamber. "You think you can kill me with that toy?" she mocked. Though nervous, Taehyun stood his ground, sweat dripping from his brow. "I'll know when I try," he replied. Regressing grinned, seeing through what she believed to be a bluff. In an instant, her tentacles lashed out, ensnaring Taehyun and pulling him close. She leaned in and whispered that she would accept the contract before sinking her teeth into his neck. Taehyun screamed in agony as the system alerted him the contract's conditions had been fulfilled and the oath of summoning was recited. The devil contract skill was replaced with the Queen's man skill, and a new ability, full hypnosis, appeared in his registry. Resaria released Taehyun, and he collapsed onto the bed, unconscious. The system notified him that his attractiveness score had increased. Stroking his face with her tentacle, Resaria cooed at Taehyun, telling him to get some rest. As she stood over him, her voice oozed with delight. "The one chosen by the king," she whispered.
If you're finding this story engaging, feel free to drop a comment below. I'd love to discuss the unfolding narrative and hear your thoughts. And if you're enjoying the tales shared, don't forget to hit that like button. For more captivating stories like this, simply click on any of the links by my side, and together, let's dive into more immersive worlds. Your feedback and interaction make this journey all the more exciting.